Today we're going to really dig into something I think we all struggle with sometimes, like not giving up.
Yeah.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
Like when do you push through and when do you just say, okay, time to move on to something else?
Exactly.
And so that's why I'm really excited about this deep dive. We're looking at this article called, What Does It Mean to Not Give Up? For entrepreneurs and everyone facing adversity.
Right?
It's, it goes into the psychology of giving up, which sounds kind of heavy, but it's actually super fascinating.
Oh, it is. It's really interesting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to kind of pick your brain on this a little bit, because the article mentions things like learned helplessness and ego depletion.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have heard those terms, but maybe they don't quite know what they mean. So what are those things, and how do they relate to this feeling of wanting to just throw in the towel?
Yeah. So, let's start with learned helplessness. So you can imagine yourself like working on something, a project or something, and no matter what you do, you keep hitting a roadblock.
Oh, yeah.
You try different things and you put in all this effort, but nothing seems to work. So over time, this can lead to a feeling of just like powerlessness, you know, like your actions just don't have any impact on the outcome.
Right, you're just spinning your wheels.
Exactly. You just feel like no matter what you do, you're destined to fail.
Ugh, it's the worst feeling.
And that, my friend, is the breeding ground for giving up.
It really is. It's like that feeling of why bother, And actually, I had a really good example of that when I was working on trying to launch a new product line. It felt like every time I took one step forward, something would happen, and I'd be knocked back 2 steps. And it was so demoralizing, I almost gave up completely.
And that is just such a classic example of how learned helplessness can just sabotage our efforts. It's really relevant, especially for entrepreneurs or anyone really who's pushing boundaries and trying to create something new, because that path is rarely linear.
It's true. It's rarely like, one straight shot to success.
Absolutely. There are going to be setbacks and challenges and moments where you're just like, wait, what am I even doing?
Yeah. Is this even worth it?
Exactly. So the key here is to, recognize that feeling of helplessness and understand that it's not actually a reflection of your abilities,
right,
but rather like a psychological response to these repeated challenges.
So it's not me, it's just my brain being, messed up from hitting all these roadblocks.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So instead of like internalizing that feeling and saying, I'm just not good at this, it's more like, okay, this is hard, but it doesn't mean I should quit. It just means I need to maybe change my approach, try something different.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the pattern and then choosing to respond differently.
I like that.
Yeah. And so now, let's talk about ego depletion. This one's all about willpower.
Okay.
Or a lack of it,
Right.
So think of willpower like a muscle.
Okay. I've heard that before.
You can only use it so much before it just gets tired.
Right.
And when that happens, we experience ego depletion.
So it's not that we're lazy or undisciplined. It's just that we literally just run out of willpower.
Exactly, yeah. Like, the gas tank is just empty.
Oh, yeah. I totally get that. Like by the end of the day, forget about making good decisions. I'm just like, whatever, I'm ordering pizza.
Exactly.
Screw the healthy meal I was going to make. I'm just too tired.
And that's ego depletion in action. When your willpower is depleted, you're just way more susceptible to those temptations, and less likely to make those choices that are going to, help you reach your goals.
Right.
And so this has like huge implications for perseverance, because it means that, just trying to power through with sheer will, it's just not a sustainable strategy.
So what do we do? Like, how do we manage this limited willpower? Because it seems like if we're trying to get better and not giving up, we got to figure out how to like not burn through our willpower so fast.
Right. And it's not about having unlimited willpower.
Right.
It's about understanding how to, conserve it and replenish it.
Okay. So give me an example. How do we do that?
Okay. So like, imagine you're running a marathon.
Okay.
You're not going to sprint at full speed right from the starting line.
No, you'd be done in like 5 minutes.
Exactly. You'd be done immediately.
Yeah.
So you have to pace yourself, conserve your energy, and fuel your body along the way, right?
Right.
So building resilience is kind of similar.
Okay.
It's about being mindful of your willpower reserves.
Okay.
And finding those ways to kind of recharge them so you can keep going when things get tough.
So instead of beating myself up for feeling tired or wanting to quit, it's more like, okay, this is normal. My willpower just needs a break, just like any other muscle would.
Exactly. It's about being kind to yourself and understanding your limitations and finding ways to work within those limitations.
I like that. That's good advice. So that could look like, I don't know, building routines that support your goals, getting rid of unnecessary distractions.
Yeah, exactly. All of those things.
Okay, I like it. Now, the article also brings up this question about whether the root of giving up is like attention deficit or motivation deficit. What are your thoughts on that? Is it our, easily distracted minds that sabotage us, or is it something deeper, like a lack of drive?
That's a really great question. And I don't think it's as simple either. I think those two things are actually really intertwined.
Yeah.
Especially when we consider the whole learned helplessness thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
So remember we talked about how that sense of powerlessness can lead to this belief that our actions just don't even matter. Well, that can impact both our focus and our motivation.
So it's like a vicious cycle.
It is.
Feeling helpless makes us less motivated, which makes it hard to focus, and then that just makes us feel even more helpless.
Exactly. So we're trapped. You're trapped in a downward spiral of doubt and inaction.
We got to break free.
Yes. And to break free from that, we need to address both sides. Boosting motivation and improving focus.
Okay, so it's like a two-pronged approach.
Yes. We got to find ways to reignite that spark, that belief in ourselves and our ability to actually make things happen. But also, we got to figure out how to stay present, resist all those distractions, and stay focused on what matters.
This don't give up thing is complicated.
Oh, yeah. It's not just about gritting your teeth and powering through.
Right. It's like a whole mind game.
It is. It's about understanding our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors.
Okay.
And finding ways to, work with them, not against them.
I like that. Okay, well, speaking of understanding things, let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about habits. Because if we're trying to build a habit of not giving up, we got to understand how habits actually work.
Totally.
And I think there's a lot of myths out there,
Oh, yeah.
Like everyone's heard of the 21-day rule, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it takes 21 days to form a new habit.
Right.
But this article kind of debunks that, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. While 21 days might work for some really simple habits.
Right.
Research shows that for more complex behavior, especially something like perseverance, which requires consistent effort over time.
Right. It's not just a one and done thing.
Yeah, it takes a lot longer. Some experts think it takes an average of 66 days.
Wow, that's a lot longer.
Yeah, and sometimes even months or even years.
Oh, my gosh. All right, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one who struggles to build good habits.
You're definitely not alone.
Okay, so what's actually happening in our brains during this process, this habit formation process?
So it all comes down to neural pathways.
Right.
Those are those intricate networks of connections in our brains that govern our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, everything. And every time we repeat a behavior, the connection between the neurons involved in that behavior gets a little bit stronger.
Okay.
So imagine you're walking through a forest.
Okay.
The more you walk along the same path, the more defined the path becomes. It's the same thing in our brain.
So the more we practice perseverance, those pathways for resilience get stronger and more defined.
Exactly. It's like you're literally rewiring your brain to be more resilient over time.
Cool. That's a very empowering way to think about it. I like that.
And here's a fun fact to really drive this point home.
Okay.
Some experts believe it takes around 10,000 hours of practice to truly master a complex skill.
10,000 hours. That's a really long time.
It is, but here's the beauty of it.
Right.
Every small step we take, every time we choose to keep going, instead of giving up, we are strengthening those pathways.
Okay.
It's like we're making a deposit into our resilience bank account.
That's a great way to put it.
And over time, those deposits add up.
I like that. So it's about consistency over time, not necessarily, these big grand gestures.
Exactly.
Like those small incremental gains that eventually lead to big changes.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been super insightful. We've explored the psychology of giving up.
Right.
Debunked some myths.
Yeah.
And even talked about brain science, which I love.
That's always fun.
Yeah. But I'm really curious to hear about the practical side of things now. What can our listeners actually do with all this information?
Well, that's where it gets really exciting.
Ooh, I like exciting.
We're going to dive into some specific strategies that you can start implementing today to help you prevent giving up before it even becomes a habit.
I can't wait to hear all about those strategies.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into those strategies. How do we actually put all this stuff into practice? What's the first step?
So one of the most powerful tools we have is mindfulness.
Okay, mindfulness. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
But how does that specifically help us, not give up?
It's about creating space between like the trigger and your reaction. So let's say, you're working on something challenging and you start to feel frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
You need that feeling,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I know that feeling well.
That temptation to just walk away.
Ugh.
Mindfulness helps you hit that pause button
Oh,
on that automatic response.
So you don't just, immediately react.
Exactly. You become an observer of your own thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
You notice the frustration, you acknowledge it,
Right.
but you don't let it dictate your actions.
So it's not about ignoring it. It's about, noticing it but not letting it control you.
Exactly.
Okay. I can see how that would be helpful.
Yeah, and actually, for me, when I get stressed or overwhelmed, I tend to just shut down.
Oh, I do that too.
It's like my go-to response is just to avoid everything.
Yeah, just hide under the covers.
Yeah, but when I can catch myself doing that
Mm-hmm.
and just, take a few deep breaths,
Right.
I can usually approach the situation with a clearer head.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So that's mindfulness in action.
exactly.
Okay, cool. So what else can we do?
Another powerful strategy is identifying and modifying your triggers.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like becoming a detective of your own behavior pattern.
Okay, I like that.
So start paying attention to what situations, emotions, even specific people tend to trigger those urges to give up.
What are the things that make me want to quit?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you notice you're more likely to hit a wall when you're working late at night.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Or maybe certain types of feedback make you feel discouraged.
Right.
Once you start to identify those patterns, then you can brainstorm ways to actually modify them.
Okay, so for me, it's definitely when I feel overwhelmed. I have a million things to do and I don't even know where to start.
Mhm.
And in the past, I would just procrastinate, which obviously didn't help.
Right, but that's a very common trigger, and there are some great strategies to deal with that.
Okay, like what?
One approach is to break down those overwhelming tasks
Okay.
into smaller, more manageable chunks.
So it doesn't feel so scary.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Another helpful tip is to prioritize that to-do list. Focus on the most important things first.
Okay, so it's all about taking control of the situation
Yes, exactly.
and setting myself up for success. I like it. Okay, what else? What other strategies do we have?
Pre-commitment is a really effective one.
Pre-commitment. Okay, I don't know if I've heard of that one.
Yeah, so it's basically about making it harder to engage in the behavior you don't want to do,
Okay.
which in this case is giving up.
So it's I'm creating obstacles for my own bad habits.
Kind of, yeah. Sounds a little counterintuitive.
It does, but I'm curious.
But it really works.
Yeah.
One example is using technology to your advantage.
Right.
There's tons of apps out there that can block distracting websites
Right.
or limit your time on social media.
So I'm not tempted to just scroll endlessly.
Exactly. You're removing those easy escape routes.
No, I see. Okay, so I'm blocking my own access to those things that make me want to quit.
Exactly.
Okay.
Another powerful pre-commitment strategy is finding an accountability partner.
Oh yeah, someone to keep you on track.
Exactly.
I'm less likely to skip my workout if I know my friend's waiting for me at the gym.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. What else? What other tricks do you have up your sleeve?
So this one might sound a little unexpected,
Good.
but sometimes simply delaying gratification can be enough to break that cycle of giving up.
Delaying gratification. Okay, tell me more.
So instead of immediately giving in to that urge to quit, give yourself a set amount of time, maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour,
Okay.
and tell yourself, I'm not going to give up for at least this long. I'm just going to sit with this discomfort and see what happens.
I've actually tried that before, and it really works. There have been times when I've been so close to giving up on a project, but I've forced myself to take a break,
Yeah.
walk away for a bit, and then when I come back, it's I have a fresh perspective.
And that's exactly what delaying gratification is all about. It's recognizing that those urges to give up, they're often fleeting,
Right, it's not a permanent feeling.
They come in waves.
Oh.
And if you can just ride out the wave without acting on it, you'll often find that the urge just dissipates on its own.
It's acknowledge it, but don't let it control you.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. All right, what's next on our list of super strategies?
So self-monitoring is another really valuable one.
Self-monitoring, okay, so tracking my progress.
Kind of, but with a focus on the things that lead to giving up.
Okay.
So start tracking things like, what time of day do I feel most drained?
Right.
What tasks make me want to quit?
Yeah.
What are those internal narratives, those self-talk patterns?
Yeah, the negative self-talk.
Exactly, that fuel those urges to give up.
So it's like I'm gathering intel on my own behavior.
Yes. You're turning that feeling of powerlessness
Right.
into a sense of agency. You're not just at the mercy of your emotions anymore.
I like that.
You're actively gathering information and using it to your advantage.
I'm a data-driven quitter.
Exactly. All right, now another strategy I really love is visualizing the long-term consequences.
Oh, I love visualization. But how does that help with not giving up?
It's about shifting your focus from that immediate discomfort.
Right, because it's hard in the moment.
It is hard.
Yeah.
So you shift from that to the long-term benefits of actually achieving your goals.
Okay, so like picture yourself crossing the finish line.
Exactly. Achieving that dream, experiencing that feeling of accomplishment.
Let that be your motivation.
Let that fuel your perseverance.
Okay.
And on the flip side, you can also visualize those negative consequences of giving up.
Oh, right. Like, where would I be if I gave up on this right now?
Exactly.
Would I regret it?
Yeah. Would you be setting yourself back?
Okay, so a little bit of fear can be motivating too.
Sometimes, yeah. A healthy dose of fear.
I can see that. All right, what else have we got?
And finally, we have one of my all-time favorites.
Okay, hit me with it.
Rewarding small wins.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in those big goals
Yeah.
and forget to celebrate the little victories along the way.
Exactly. But those small wins are crucial.
They are.
They build momentum, they boost your confidence, and they reinforce those neural pathways for perseverance.
It's like give yourself a little pat on the back every time you achieve something,
Exactly.
even if it's small.
Even if it's tiny.
Yeah, like, hey, good job, you're on the right track, keep going.
Yes, exactly. And those positive reinforcements make it more likely that you'll actually stick with it, even when things get tough.
That makes sense. All right, well, this is fantastic. I'm feeling like way more empowered just hearing about these strategies.
You really were.
They're so practical
Yeah.
and actionable.
And the best part is they all work together.
Oh, nice.
The more you practice these strategies, the more they become like ingrained in your behavior patterns.
Okay.
It becomes easier and easier to just stay the course and achieve your goals.
It's like building that resilience muscle, one strategy at a time.
Exactly.
Okay, I love that. But before we move on, I'm just curious, what are your final thoughts on this whole idea of, not giving up? Like, what does it really mean to you?
It's really striking me as we've been talking about all this stuff, this whole idea of not giving up. It's not really just about willpower, is it?
It's not just about like gritting your teeth and pushing through. No.
Yeah, it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah, it's about like really understanding how our minds work,
Right, recognizing those patterns.
Yeah, those patterns that make us want to quit.
And then having the tools to deal with them. Like, we actually have a choice.
We do. We have choice.
Yeah, we're not just victims of our own, negative thoughts and emotions. Exactly. We have this incredible toolkit for building resilience. We don't just have to suffer through it.
Right. There are things we could do to make it easier.
Absolutely.
I like that. And then, it seems like these strategies aren't just for like specific projects or goals, right?
No, not all.
It's like they can change our whole approach to life, I think.
I think so, too.
Because life is tough, right?
Yeah. Life is full of challenges.
Big and small.
Big and small, yeah. But it's really all about how we respond to those challenges, isn't it?
It really is.
It shapes our whole experience.
Yeah. And so if we can cultivate this mindset of perseverance, like this willingness to keep going, even when it's hard,
Yeah.
then we're better equipped to handle all those ups and downs that life throws at us.
Exactly. We become more resilient.
More resilient, yeah. It's almost like we're building this inner compass,
I love that analogy.
It guides us back to where we want to go, even when we get off track.
And for everyone listening, I'll leave you with this. What's one tiny step you can take today to strengthen that inner compass?
Maybe it's taking 5 minutes to practice mindfulness.
Yeah.
Just like noticing your breath, noticing your thoughts and feelings.
Or maybe identifying one trigger that tends to make you want to give up and then brainstorming a way to change things up,
Or maybe just celebrating a small win, like acknowledge those little victories along the way.
Yes. Whatever that step is, take it.
Embrace the journey.
And remember, progress over perfection.
That's such good advice. It's
Yeah.
not about being perfect. It's about showing up and trying our best.
Absolutely.
Keep going. All right. Well, on that note, I think we've covered a lot today in our deep dive into not giving up.
We've talked about a lot.
Yeah. And hopefully everyone listening has gained some valuable insights and, some tools that they can use to be more resilient.
Yep.
And I just want to say, everyone listening, you have everything you need within you to overcome challenges and achieve your dreams. Just keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep going.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, everyone, stay curious and embrace that power of perseverance. You got this.
Got no love for the fakeness if you wanna play tough.